Thank you very much, Dr. David. Good morning, everybody. Dr. Ednin Hamzah, our honorary speaker today, Dr. Chan Yao from Singapore, and Dr. Primana Primanti, Yayasan ALS Indonesia, Professor Notina from UMMC, speakers and presenters, participants and supporters. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the working committee for giving me an opportunity to say a few words at these closing episodes of the webinars on enhancing knowledge and skills for management of motor neuron disease. In short, we call it the MND Beyond Borders, as have been introduced by Dr. David. It is my honor to congratulate the working committee led by Dr. Chan Yao, Director of Tan Tock Seng Hospital's Home Ventilation and Respiratory Support Service, Singapore, Dr. Primana Primanti, Chairperson of Yayasan ALS Indonesia, and Associate Professor Dr. Law Yi-Chin, the consultant in palliative medicine, University of Malaya Medical Center. And she is also our medical advisor for having successfully conducted this series of MND Beyond Borders. It is indeed a great job well done. Cheers to you all. Now let us look a little bit back. This series of educational webinars started in February this year and is going to end by today. So we all have traveled a very long distance and it's also a very hard journey. It has been a very, very valuable experience and lesson for all of us. All of us have picked up something new. Just to recall, the objective of these webinars is to increase the skills and knowledge of healthcare professionals so that they will be able to provide a more competent, holistic care to manage the complexity of needs in patients living with MND. Secondly is to empower and provide support to all patients, the families and caregivers of people having MND, so that they have a good understanding and knowledge on how to handle the situations better. And I was made to understand that one of the targets set, that is to create awareness and to acquire knowledge among our palliative care doctors, have been realized. And that reaching out to palliative care physicians and trainees in Malaysia has achieved the desired target. Thank you very much and congratulations. Now the feedbacks from attendees show that they are quite thrilled with what they have learned from the speakers and presenters, especially in subjects on respiratory management and non-invasive ventilators, NIV, which seems to be a very, very important subject in the MND patient management. And I would like to put on records our grateful thanks to all our collaborator partners, namely Tan Tock Seng Hospital Ventilation and Respiratory Support Service Singapore, Yayasan ALS Indonesia, and University of Malaya Medical Center for the wonderful achievements and very strong support. Now, when I say the strong support, they are very supportive in marshalling a team of high caliber healthcare professionals from within the organizations and outside of their organizations like Hospice Malaysia. It is very applaudable that they share the vast practical experiences and valuable expertise in the field of managing the complex needs of powers and cars. To me, what stands out most are that all speakers and presenters have displayed marvelous, the fine quality, namely their commitment, their expertise, and their spirit of volunteerism. They all deserve more than a salute. Thank you so much for adding so much value to this education program. I would like to convey my gratitude to the gratifying support of participants from the healthcare professionals, pals and cows, caregivers, and supporters for taking time and efforts to attend the webinars. Ladies and gentlemen, it is really inspiring and heartwarming to see so many of you supporting our series of webinars on M&D Beyond Borders. You have assumed your roles in making members of the committee of the M&D community feels a sense of hope and better quality of life. Your dedication, commitment, expertise, volunteerism, and compassion are wonderful and remarkable. Commitment is willing to give one's time and energy to something that one believes in, or a promise to do something with results. Albert Einstein once said, only one who devotes himself to a cause with his whole strength and soul can be a true master. Without doubt, you are true masters of the M&D community. To all speakers and presenters, thank you very much for your generously sharing your expertise and valuable practical experience with participants. Your inputs have been very beneficial and useful for members of the M&D community. This project could not have been completed without your specific expertise and generous contributions. Now, volunteers are the backbone of many organizations, especially NGOs like M&D Malaysia. We recognize wholeheartedly you well for your efforts, time, and energy, your spirit of giving your time and labor, and your spirit of expecting very little in return is really outstanding. You have added value to M&D Malaysia. Your selflessness as volunteers is an inspiration to others seeking to serve. Words alone cannot express how grateful we are for your willingness to volunteer. Let me quote a poet from internet that show how marvelous you are as volunteers. Well, these are not my words, but somebody else. Dedicated hearts like yours are not so easy to find. It takes a special person to be so generous and kind. To care for so much for your fellow man is a quality all too rare. Yet you give of your time and talents for all in need to share. So thank you for being a volunteer. We are privileged to work with you. We want you to know how appreciated you are, not just today, but the whole year through. Ladies and gentlemen, behind the glamour that all of us enjoy, there is this group of dedicated and hard-working committee who deserve our admiration. Through the hard work, we have reaped the success we planned for. I would like to record my grateful thanks to all the committee members, the managers, the facilitators, technical advisors, transcribers, helpers, and supporters for the great efforts, energy, and patience to ensure that the project went on well. Thank you. As a patient advocacy society, the core values of M&D lead us never feeling satisfied with our achievements, as there is always room for improvement in everything we do. For the well-being of the members of the M&D community, I'm sure that all of us will study the shortcomings and enhance the good ones for the benefits of participants in the future. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall, said Confucius. Collaboration in healthcare services has been cited a key strategy for healthcare reform and has been shown to improve patient outcomes such as anxiety, hopelessness, helplessness, and to provide benefits to healthcare providers, including reducing extra work and increasing job satisfaction. A fine example of collaboration in healthcare services is the establishment of the 3-in-1 medical M&D clinic at the University of Malaya Medical Center, where the PALs will be given appointments to visit 3 clinics neurology clinic, rehab clinic, and palliative care clinic on the same day. That is on Monday afternoon. We in MND Malaysia will continue to work harder to pursue the strategies to connect, to collaborate, and to communicate and advocate about MND. We look forward to your continued support. Honestly, we need a lot of volunteers, in fact. Now, this morning, we are very privileged to have a very knowledgeable and experienced speaker, Dr. Ednin Hamzah, who is the present CEO of Hospice Malaysia, to advise us how to move forward. I'm very sure that this sharing will be very impactful. We would like to hear it in full. Dr. Ednin, thank you very much for being able to take time to share with us your knowledge and experience. We all look forward to your advice. And I was made to understand that we have a lot of excitements today. So please enjoy your sessions. Once again, everybody, thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much for the words of introduction, Mr. Su, and also especially for the excellent work you've been doing as chairman of MND Malaysia, and also being a very inspiring advocate based on your own experience. So we really are very grateful to have you as chairman of MND Malaysia, and thanks again for the kind words. And I was made to understand there's a few visual pictures that we put together as a review on the year past. So before we dive into the discussion and the sharing, let's just have a look at what has been achieved in the past 1 year and have a look at this video. With that introduction done already, I'd also like to thank Mr. Su once again for introducing the other panelists as well just now, and also like to welcome Dr. Ulu Chan from Penang, as well as Dr. Ziaudin especially, who are also very experienced seniors with regards to palliative care in the community. So I think without further ado, I really encourage for everyone to keep your questions coming once again. And I'd just like to pass the stage maybe for a few moments to Dr. Ednin to share a few thoughts that you might have had on deciding to join MND Malaysia, and maybe a bit of an introduction that might be motivating you to generously contribute to our effort here.
I think certainly a request by Su Shen cannot be refused. That there are certain aspects of life that are that needs to be managed carefully, and I think that in dealing with the issue of MND, this is something that I feel has been very, very important, really from a very early stage of what I was doing in palliative care. My understanding of palliative care came from my experience in the UK, which was that palliative care is for everyone, not just for cancer. And one of the surprises I had when coming to Malaysia was really a whole complex cultural change, that in Malaysia it seems that palliative care was only for end-of-life care, and not just end-of-life care, very, very end-of-life care, and only for cancer, very, very end-of-life care for very, very end-of-life cancer patients, and that there was really a lack of understanding of where palliative care comes from. And so one of the first things we did in Hospice Malaysia was to instigate a palliative care on a needs basis. And certainly we had a couple of MND cases really within the first year that I started working, as well as other non-cancer cases. And I do feel that MND cases are extremely endearing, complex, and also full of richness in the exchange between patient and family, as well as the healthcare professional and volunteers dealing with such care. They offer a wealth of knowledge from how they cope with their diseases that I think also benefits the workers in looking at perhaps a different way of living, the challenges in dealing with uncertainties. And certainly, I guess, over this past 2 years, I feel that the world is now experiencing some of the aspects of life that MND patients have, not knowing what happens the next day. There is no guarantee that everything's going to be okay for the next few weeks. No, we now have the oh my God variant of COVID, and everyone starts panicking again. And I think these are uncertainties that MND patients go through, not knowing what happens in their disease trajectory. At what point will there will be challenges in eating, in communicating, in breathing? There is no set time frame for this to happen. So I do feel that there is a particular aspect that I think is very deserving and rewarding for palliative care and the neurology teams that are working with such patients. And I certainly feel that over the years, we've had quite good collaboration with neurologists and the neurological departments in the hospital team, as opposed to potentially the traditional oncologists who always say it is not time for palliative care yet. So many of the patients over the years that we've had in Hospice Malaysia has been with us for several years. And certainly with we've got very good collaboration with your various teams in and certainly I've had some discussions with Nortina into how we can enhance the collaboration further. So really, I've got no problems in talking about enhanced cooperation and collaboration between the palliative care fraternity, the neurology, as well as the patients and caregivers, because they're the ones doing all the work at home. And they need our support. And from their experiences, we learn how to provide care that is most relevant to them. So thank you for having me here. I'm happy to join in and answer what I can and say I don't know to those questions that I don't know.
Yeah, I think there'll be questions plenty to come. And I especially picked up on your adjective to say that it's endearing and families and patients are endearing. And yeah, I find it's interesting because it might resonate with a lot of us that we have these relationships over long terms, as you mentioned. It can be a matter of years and it's really a long haul. And yeah, I take away from your first statement that palliative care and MND is a match and that we have a goal that's very much in common. And thanks for that very kind introduction. And also with your reference to the UK, I often hear from Prof. Nortina that yeah, in the UK it's very different. Everyone is likely familiar with MND, and you rarely have to go through all these initial words of introduction and explanation because there's just so much awareness. So maybe just like to pass to Prof. Nortina, anything you might like to say as a few words.
Right. Thank you very much, David, and thank you very much, Dr. Ednin, for joining us. I'm very very excited because, as Dr. Ednin had mentioned, a key component is palliative care, and we were quite lucky at University Malaya Medical Center because Professor Loh and also Professor Lydia at the time was at UMMC, was willing to join together with the neurology, myself, to deliver this care, the standard of care that is, that we should be really providing to all patients with MND. And I think it was maybe about 11, 12 years ago that we first started. So we started, very ad hoc. And to see where it is now, 12 years later, it's wonderful. And one of the exciting things, and this is hopefully, we're going to be talking about what what we're going to be hoping for in the future, but something that is most certainly going to happen is the collaboration between the UMMC MND team together with Hospice Malaysia. So that was like the missing piece I've always felt, where community care in Malaysia is not as established as it is in the UK, for instance. So in the UK, each center, it is a government mandate that each tertiary center would have an MND service. And in that service, they would also have a dedicated nurse that looks after the patients also in the community. So that was always missing. And it's nice that now, and we are working through the actual MOU, so that hopefully should come through in the next month or so, depending on how quickly the hospital works. But in terms of approval, this is something that is definitely going to go ahead, and I'm very, very grateful to Dr. Ednin for actually agreeing to this collaboration. And I think that is the missing piece. So the idea would be that it's now going to be seamless, where patients come to see us, see the different specialties, in our multidisciplinary clinic, have the inpatient access, but very, very importantly, be able to have that care in the community, which is where, we will work together with the palliative team in the community through Hospice Malaysia and hopefully all the other hospices around the country. So, we're very ambitious, David. I think, David and I work quite closely. So he knows, together with Professor Loh, we are very, very ambitious to make this more of a national agenda. So not like a UMMC thing, but more of a national agenda, because we really do need to raise awareness for sure. We have done our own research and have found that, we are probably not seeing, we're only probably seeing a fraction, probably about a quarter of the true MND patient that's out there. So the awareness needs to be raised across the board, within the healthcare professionals in terms of diagnosing patients. And also, changing that mindset that, it's just going to be neurology that looks after them. Is actually not. It's actually it's a team effort. Patients and their caregivers, the family, friends, they need the whole team, the neurologist, the palliative, the rehab. And then when the time comes, they need the respiratory support and also the nutritional support. So there's a lot of factors here. So I'm very, encouraged to see that, 12 years later, that I would never have imagined we would get this far. And this is really through everybody being wonderfully kind in their time and support. This is all really down to us, opening our hearts to look after this group of patients.
Thanks, Prof. Notina. I was thinking perhaps we could just have a short round of introductions, since we've got a panel who generously agreed to join, and by way of introduction as well. So I was just maybe going to ask Dr. Premana, who is the Indonesian Yayasan ALS Indonesia representative. What sort of experience would you say is it that you had based on your personal experience having received the diagnosis in Indonesia, and what is the successes that you've had so far with regards to Yayasan ALS Indonesia? Because I think there's a lot of great work that has been done and successes that you've had. So we could just ask Dr. Premana to say a few words.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. From the very bottom of my heart, I thank you, all of you, for constructing this beautiful collaboration. I mean, it's different if you construct a collaboration motivated by the heart, and Mr. Su conveyed everything that I wish I could put in words. And Prof. Notina, you've known me for some time, and I've known you too. And Dr. Sheila, who's been with me for many years. Well, it's been, I must say, it started as a lonely journey. I think we've got this conviction that we know there are more than what we could see as far as patients are concerned, the number, I mean. And it's true, and with time we identified more and more of them. But I must admit that we haven't got close enough to where you are in Singapore and Malaysia, it's a thorough care for the patient and enough knowledge on how to care. And I tried to reflect on what Dr. Hamzah mentioned, and of course, Professor Martina. I don't know, please correct me, but I perceive that palliative care is like a compassion with it's a compassion put into tested knowledge that people could bring home and practices as a daily care. But because of the length of time that some of us have to live with this thing, some just have it rather short, but like me, I've got it for a decade. And then the right care transform your physical condition into something else which you actually have in your life. And I've been able to continue my professional life so far, and I've been very grateful for that. And I'm sure part of it is my variant of the disease. I should consider it as luck, but most of it is, I think, due to the right caring, the right understanding of the disease. And that, as I mentioned, it opens your mindset into, or maybe it's not opening, it's returning your mindset to your normal situation. And I think that's probably why palliative care is crucial. And with what we've got so far this year, and actually prior, it's probably the easiest would be just to replicate what you've been doing in Malaysia and Singapore as far as the healthcare system, introducing as much as possible knowledge to our professional health care system, and also to the family, and also the closeness of our I don't know, maybe our regional or our condition between Malaysia and Singapore is very similar. I hope it would not be much of a challenge to replicate what you've been very successfully achieved. I think that's about all I can say for now, David. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very insightful words, and they do speak to the other difference that the right care makes, I suppose. And also you mentioned the uncertainty that that comes with the diagnosis, and how outcomes can be so different with the kind of care that is received. Thanks a lot for the first introducing words, Dr. Pramana. And just pass it briefly to another panelist. We also have on board today Dr. Chan Yao, our esteemed senior from Tan Tock Seng Hospital, Singapore, who has been contributing a lot with regards to home ventilation, tracheostomy emergencies, things that are not necessarily the bread and butter of palliative care, but I think which we really appreciated having a chance to ask the questions and get to know more. So maybe just give it to pass over the phone to Dr. Chan Yao to say a few words, introduction, and perhaps a few issues that you think might be helpful for us to discuss with regards to the topic of today.
Thank you, David. And thank you to Mr. Su, to Dr. Hamzah, Dr. Martina, and also to Dr. Pramana. But here I really like to say a big thank you to MND Malaysia and to Hospice Malaysia and to Dr. Loh Yi Chin, who unfortunately is not here today. Why do I want to say such a big thank you? Because we were just doing our own little thing in a small corner in that little red dot. And 2 years ago, we were invited to KL and then got infected by these bunch of very infectious people who have so much passion and energy and compassion. It's really refreshing to see how the volunteers, the families come together, the healthcare professionals devote their time to doing this. But we thought it was just a one-off visit to KL, and I never dreamed that we would end up with a collaboration across the whole year. And throughout this year, we have done the easy part, which is just to share our slides. But all the hard work, all the backgrounds done by David and by Shu Xian and Wen Fang and everybody behind this. So thank you so much. I always tell my patients that it is they who keep us going, but in a bigger sense, in the region in Southeast Asia, it is you guys who keep us going. One of the questions we grapple with, you may think that we are advanced in Singapore. We are not. We struggle with the same problems, money problems, lack of good therapeutic modality problems. And in a sense, sometimes I always wonder, because when I was growing up and as a child, you hear of this uncle who is down the road and then suddenly he passes away. You see someone go to the food center with a head droop and then suddenly they pass away. In those days, nobody knows what is ALS. So you know about stroke, you know about heart attack, but nobody knows what is ALS, but people die faster. Now we have awareness. So everybody knows. We still have crazy diagnostic and therapeutic journeys to get to the diagnosis. So we still have people go through orthopedic surgeries, followed by neurosurgeries before they finally get diagnosed. But I think by and by in Singapore, we are more aware and we are getting to diagnosis faster. But unfortunately, I think worse than cancer, ALS is a death sentence that gives you a protracted period of survival. So you have 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or 8 years, and sometimes the living is worse than being dead. And so the challenge for families, the challenge for patients, and in a smaller way, the challenge for doctors and nurses and therapists is to help them to see this not as a 5-year or 3-year death sentence, but as a 3 years and 5 years to make their life worth living. And sometimes it's really, really hard to see how life can be worth living when you're struggling with the next breath, when you don't know if the next meal is going to kill you, and you feel embarrassed because you have got saliva drooling and so on. So how do we see the human being underneath all this, and how do we help them to live a bit better? That is a question that I don't think modern medicine has solved. And I don't think that all the expensive tools that we have solved. And actually, I'm so grateful that we are in this MND Beyond Borders. 2 years ago, the Europeans and Americans came together. They published the guideline on airway clearance for people with neuromuscular diseases. And one of the key points in there is that all the modalities for airway clearance are expensive and they are not well validated. So I think the challenge for us in Southeast Asia is how do we help our people to live better, because any one of us can get ALS, now or later. How do we help ourselves to live better using means that are affordable? Because we should not only deserve to breathe better, to have our saliva better controlled, to have our phlegm cleared, and to be able to communicate our thoughts and emotions. We should not be able to do this only if we are rich. So that is absolutely wrong. We should be able to do it regardless of our wealth. And how do we tell our governments that we will not bankrupt them if we want to look after our ALS patients better? So I don't have any solution at all. I come peddling expensive tools, and I want to learn. We want to learn together how we can now make it better, cheaper, and effective. And so I'm grateful that our team has been invited on this learning journey together. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the introduction, Dr. Chan Yao. And there's quite a bunch of issues already that I think we can return to shortly after the introduction round. And just by way of introduction as well, I'd like to mention Dr. Sheila Agustini, who's the consultant senior neurologist in Mayapada Hospital in Indonesia, and who has also authored a textbook on MND and the Malaysian Malay language, which is very useful. And I was just going to ask you as well, is there anything that you were hoping to discuss today, or that you'd like to add from your perspective in the introduction round, Dr. Sheila?
Thank you, Dr. David, for the introduction, and sending greetings to our respected panelists today, Dr. Ednin Hamzah, Prof. Tina, Dr. Chaniao, and of course, Bunana. And also thank you for inviting us to this MND Beyond Borders, to Dr. Sushan, Dr. David, Dr. Wung Fang, everyone. You have been all amazing. So it will just be 10 minutes about the current status of medical care for ALS patients in Indonesia. And maybe during my presentation, we can see some of the highlights, challenges that may be shared as well. So we know that Indonesia is a very populated country, about 270 million population. And also with the estimated of the worldwide incidence is about 1 in 50,000 per year. But we kind of like wondering, I mean, you know, our data in the foundation recorded like around 115 patients. So using the worldwide incidence number, there should be around 5,000 new cases per year. So there may be kind of like reflecting the underdiagnosis of ALS in Indonesia. And also we did a survey, I think in 2021 it's only in 45, and we can see the diagnostic delay as well, but I think this is quite similar with other study. So we all know that ALS diagnosis can be a very lengthy process. So we know now, we know that electrodiagnostic or EMG is very crucial in helping the diagnosis of ALS. And apparently, fortunately, EMG is covered by the national health system. It's just the geographical or regional barriers to access the facility can be very troublesome. We had a patient in our group that traveled like 8 hours to reach the nearest EMG facility. So as you can see, Indonesia is very, very vast region, and people sometimes travel by boats, by planes, even just to get electromyography examination. And in regards to another examination in helping the diagnosis, we do have lab, of course, but we don't have genetic testing. I mean, it's very fancy to see about the SOD1 mutation and all the C9, but we don't have genetic testing currently available in Indonesia. So what about imaging or CT scan? We have CT scan and we have conventional MRI and we have more advanced MRI like DTI. But of course, we know all this facility not equally distributed. So people living in rural or remote areas may have to go, travel to another center. And we also have transmagnetic stimulation or TMS. Their TMS kind of like in the hype also, but it's not also widely distributed. And for skin or muscle biopsy is also available in Indonesia. And if you need to do biopsy, like if you suspect this patient or ALS or muscle problem, we can do that in Indonesia. So what is next after the diagnosis of ALS in Indonesia? Do we have actually care? So the current status of medical care for ALS patients in Indonesia in 2021. So multidisciplinary team are offered in some regions, but there is no specific heavily dedicated ALS center in the region. In pharmacological standpoint, we do have symptomatic medications to alleviate symptoms and sufferings, like kind of like for the hypersalivation and also for the stiffness, for the cramps. And we also have disease-modifying drug, edaravone, being launched earlier this year. So how about from non-pharmacological standpoint? We have physiotherapy, speech therapy. Of course, it's not widely distributed. Where I come from Jakarta, which is everything is pretty much easy in Jakarta. You can access any health facilities, but it's not the same with other regions. And we also actively advocate for NGT or PEG, and we have a lot of people now on PEG. Maybe like 2 or 3 years prior, ALS patients in Indonesia are commonly using NGT, but now PEG usage is advocated all the time. Now, in regards to NIV, this is something very fancy because we did have some people on an IV machine, but I think the numbers are pretty much very small. It's not only about the pricey equipments, but because maybe lack of awareness of an IV as well. And eye tracker device, we had some patients in the foundation who use eye tracker, but of course, it's also very, very limited number of patients. So we have limited equipment and technology to support daily life. I mean, even for like a very good collar neck, the ALS patients have flail necks, and sometimes it's kind of hard to find the right collar for the ALS patients. And in regards to hospice or end life, invasive ventilation, tracheostomy, home care services are not being covered by the national health system. So most of them are cared by private services. So this is where I think I know I'm a neurologist, but I mean, ALS is a neuromuscular disorder and it comes with one package. I mean, you cannot just diagnose and then don't really provide the right care. So there is also care after diagnosis. And palliative, I don't think is playing role only in end life. It's actually once the diagnosis of ALS has been stated, that's where the start of ensuring quality of life, despite that the cure is still somewhere, is already started. So I think ALS care in Indonesia to support quality of life is available, despite we do have limitations and not in equal distributions. These are just some pictures of the patients in our foundation. You can see this. This is he was on PEG, and this is the actual setting of a home care ventilated patient who is also with us in the foundation. It is a female, and she's been ventilated for almost maybe 4 years. And this is a photo when we invited a vendor to kind of like make a demo about the NIV machine, and we had our patient coming and trying, to see how it's working. And this is also an eye tracker being used by one of the patients. And what about in the pandemic era? We discovered that 6 of 116 ALS patients in our group acquired COVID-19 infection, and all of them were in self-isolation and did not suffer from the severe form of COVID. And we encouraged telemedicine, and we made virtual meetings, and we always advocate for COVID-19 vaccination for the ALS patient. And for moving forward, of course, we are looking so much to keep on increasing ALS awareness among the Indonesian public, and also ALS, how to make early diagnosis and then care after diagnosis, the skill and knowledge for among the physicians, not only neurologists, but also working hand in hand in a multidisciplinary team. And maybe kind of like looking forward to a more variety of technology assisted or basic equipments just needed to give good daily life for the ALS patients, and maybe kind of like try to make more lobbying with the governmental role. But I don't know, Dr. Chanio, if you're saying like how to make the government not going bankrupt, that will be very hard to do in Indonesia, because but we will try to lobby, about the disabled populations and more facilities for that. And of course, we are looking forward to future collaboration. This is not a lonely project. We all in this together, and we are all in Southeast Asia. We may have some differences, but we also share a lot of things in common, and everything is always focusing to help with the quality of life. I put a picture here. This was before COVID. It was a meeting in December, so you can see all the ALS patients that attended the meeting. Thank you very much.